I don't know why I'm writing this, or what I expect from posting it here. Maybe I just want someone to believe me before what happened fades into something I start doubting myself. My name doesn't matter, and if anyone asks, I'm not saying which state this happened in. Just know that it's real, and that if you're ever driving alone through small towns no one's heard of, don't stop. Keep going. I was on a road trip, the kind of impulsive one you plan after too many sleepless nights. I'd quit my job a month earlier and figured I'd drive across the country. No destination, just roads, gas stations, motels, and silence. It was supposed to be freeing. It was for a while. The first week was all open highways, diners that smelled like burnt coffee, and long stretches of nothing but wheat fields and broken fences. I didn't mind. I liked the quiet. But everything changed the morning my car started stuttering, halfway through a desolate stretch of highway, somewhere between two towns I can't find on any map now. At first, I thought it was just low oil or bad gas. The check engine light had been flickering for days, but I'd ignored it. Figured I'd deal with it when I reached a real city. I pulled over on the shoulder, got out and popped the hood. The air smelled like heat and metal. The only sound was the tick-tick-tick of cooling steel. Then I realized there was no cell signal, no bars, not even the ghost of one. The road behind me stretched for miles, perfectly straight, vanishing into a haze. Ahead, maybe 2 miles away, I saw a faded green sign. I couldn't read it from where I stood, but it was the only sign of civilization. So I grabbed my backpack, locked the car, and started walking. By the time I reached the sign, sweat was running down my back. It said, "Welcome to Daring, population 412. The paint was peeling, and someone had scratched a line through the number. The town was quiet, not deserted, but quiet in a way that felt unnatural. A single main street cut through the place, lined with a handful of buildings. A gas station, a small diner, a post office, a church with boarded-up windows, and a hardware store that looked like it hadn't restocked in decades. I went into the diner first, figuring someone there could tell me where to find a mechanic. A bell jingled when I opened the door. The air inside was heavy with the smell of grease and old coffee. Behind the counter stood a woman in her 50s with a tight gray bun and eyes that looked like they hadn't seen sleep in years. "Car trouble?" she asked, before I even said a word. "Yeah," I said, half laughing. "Guess it's obvious." She didn't laugh back. She just nodded toward the window. "You broke down on the highway?" "About 2 miles east," I said. "Engine's dead. You know anyone who can take a look?" She paused, just a second too long. Then she said, "You'll want to talk to Hank. He runs the garage on Mill Road." I thanked her and ordered coffee. It came lukewarm and bitter. The only other person in the diner was a man in coveralls sitting by the window, watching me. When I looked back at him, he smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. I left a few dollars on the counter and walked to the garage. It was a squat building at the edge of town, a faded sign that read Hank's Auto and Repair hanging crooked above the door. Inside, a single man was working under a truck. When I called out, he rolled out from beneath it, grease-stained, bearded, wearing a faded cap. "You're not from around here," he said, wiping his hands. "Nope, just passing through. Car died on me." "Where'd you leave it?" "Highway, near the old mill, 2 miles east of the town sign." He looked toward the road like he could see it from there. "I'll grab the tow. You can ride with me." The truck smelled of oil and cigarettes. As we drove, he asked a few questions. Where I was headed, how long I'd been on the road, if anyone knew I was traveling. I answered vaguely, thinking he was just making conversation. When we reached my car, he hooked it up without another word. On the drive back, I noticed something strange. There were no other cars, not one. The entire time we'd been out there, no traffic passed by either direction. At the garage, he said he'd take a look but might need to order parts. Town's small, he added. Deliveries only come Thursdays. It was Sunday. I sighed. Guess I'm stuck here for a few days then. He gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Guess so. He suggested the Elmwood Inn for lodging, only place still open. I checked in that afternoon. The woman behind the desk didn't ask for ID or a card, just handed me a key attached to a heavy brass tag. Room 3. The room was old but clean enough. Floral curtains, a small bed, and wallpaper yellowed from years of smoke. From my window, I could see the street, the diner, and the church at the far end of town. That night, I tried to sleep, but around midnight, I heard something. A faint, distant noise, like a low hum. It wasn't machinery. It sounded almost like singing. Slow, rhythmic, coming from somewhere near the church. I told myself it was just locals, maybe a late-night service. But when I looked out the window, the church was dark. The next morning, the town looked different. Not physically, everything was the same, but it felt different. People were out now, sweeping porches, tending to the few stores, walking dogs that didn't bark. Yet every time I passed someone and tried to say hello, they'd just nod once and look away. At breakfast, the diner woman from yesterday didn't greet me this time. She poured coffee, but her eyes stayed on the counter. I noticed a corkboard near the entrance, usually the kind of thing with flyers for yard sales or missing pets. But this one only had old sun-bleached photos of people. Each picture had a name underneath, and below that, the words, "Never forgotten." I asked about them casually. She said, "Those are folks who moved on." Moved on. She didn't elaborate. Later, I walked the main street, looking for anything to pass the time. The post office was closed. The hardware store was open but empty. When I asked the man behind the counter if there was a library or park nearby, he frowned like I'd said something strange. "There's the woods," he said finally. "But you don't want to go there." I laughed a little. "Why not?" "Ticks," he said. "Coyotes." But his tone told me he meant something else. The rest of the day passed slow. My car sat in the garage, hood open. Hank waved once when I walked by but didn't call me over. I went back to the inn and sat outside with a soda, watching the street. That's when I noticed something odd. Around dusk, everyone, literally everyone, started going indoors. One by one, doors shut, curtains drawn, lights dimmed. Within 10 minutes, the whole town was silent. I was still sitting on the steps, confused, when the innkeeper came out. She looked nervous. "You should go inside," she said softly. "Why? What's going on?" I asked. She hesitated. "Town gets quiet after dark. Always has." Then she turned and locked the front door behind us. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Around the same time, midnight, I heard the same humming, closer this time. A low, droning sound, like several voices chanting one long note. I went to the window, but the street was empty. The only light came from the church at the end of the road. The boards I'd seen yesterday were gone. Candles flickered inside. I watched for maybe 10 minutes, trying to figure out if it was some kind of ceremony. Then I saw them, shapes moving in the glow. A dozen, maybe more. They were swaying, slow and synchronized. I wanted to go out there, but something deep down told me not to. Instead, I cracked the window just enough to listen. The humming stopped. For a few seconds, there was silence so deep, it felt alive. Then, someone, or something, whispered a word I couldn't make out, and then every single candle went out at once. The next morning, the boards were back on the church windows. When I asked the diner lady about it, she froze mid-pour. "Church burned down 10 years ago," she said flatly. "Ain't been used since." I stared at her. "No, I saw lights there last night. People inside." She shook her head. "Don't go near it again." I tried asking others, but everyone had the same reaction. Stiff smiles, quick goodbyes, and that same phrase, "Best not go poking around." By noon, I walked to the garage to check on my car. Hank was there, but he looked different. His hands trembled a little, and there was a smear of something dark, oil maybe, on his collar. "Any luck with the parts?" I asked. "Not yet," he said. "Might take another few days." A few days. I wanted to argue, but something in his expression, tight, almost pleading, made me stop. "All right," I said quietly. "Guess I'll hang around a bit longer." He didn't reply. That afternoon, I tried leaving town on foot, just to get some fresh air. There was only one road in and out. I walked maybe half a mile before a sheriff's cruiser rolled up beside me. The man inside rolled down his window. "You lost?" he asked. "No, just walking. Needed a break from town." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Not safe outside the limits," he said. "Lots of old wells out here. People disappear." "I'll be careful." He didn't move the car, just stared. "Turn around." So I did. That night the humming came again, this time louder, like it was beneath my floorboards. I put on my shoes and crept down the hallway. The innkeeper's door was open. She was gone. The lobby was dark, except for the faint light leaking through the cracks in the front door. When I looked outside, I saw them again. A line of people walking down the street toward the church. No lanterns, no flashlights, just moving in silence. I counted maybe 20 of them, every single one barefoot. I followed them. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to prove to myself I wasn't losing my mind. At the church, the door was slightly open. The same humming rolled from inside, vibrating in my chest. I peeked through the crack. They were standing in a circle. Candles surrounded them again, and in the center, a shallow pit dug into the church floor. Someone was speaking in a low, steady voice I couldn't quite make out. Then they all turned at once, every head, every face, right toward me. I don't remember running back to the inn. I just remember slamming the door and locking it, heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. I didn't sleep that night. When the sun came up, the street was empty again. The town looked normal. But when I went to the garage, my car was gone. I stood in the middle of the garage, staring at the empty space where my car had been. The tow truck was still there, but my car, the one thing connecting me to the outside world, was gone. Hank came out from the back room, wiping his hands. When he saw me, his face dropped just slightly before he forced a smile. "Morning, you're up early. Where's my car?" He hesitated, towed it over to the storage lot. Needed more space in here. "There's a storage lot behind the lumber yard." "Show me." He didn't move. His eyes darted toward the window, then back to me. "Ain't much to see. I'll bring it back once I get the part." Something in his voice cracked on that last word. I stepped closer. "Hank, what's going on here? Why is everyone acting like this? Why are you lying to me?" He looked at me for a long time, then exhaled. "You're not supposed to be here," he said quietly. No one stops in daring anymore. Before I could ask what he meant, the bell on the door jingled. The sheriff walked in. "Morning, fellas." He smiled at me. That same fake, too wide grin. "Everything all right here?" Hank's jaw tightened. "Just talking about the car." "Good," the sheriff said. "We like things calm around here. Don't we, Hank?" Hank didn't answer. I stepped back. "Look, I just want to leave. If you can tell me where my car is, I'll go." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. No reason to rush. We don't get many visitors. Best you rest up. Roads out are rough this time of year. There's only one road out, I said. He smiled again, but softer this time. Exactly. Then he left. After that, Hank refused to speak another word. I walked out, my heart pounding. The air outside felt heavier than usual, humid and still, like the town itself was holding its breath. I followed his directions anyway, past the diner, past the post office, until I reached the lumber yard at the far edge of town. The place was fenced off, the gate locked with heavy chain. I rattled it. Cold out, but no one came. Through a gap in the boards, I could see a dirt lot behind it, but no cars. No signs of anything ever being stored there. That was when I realized something else. The woods behind the yard stretched deep, too deep for a town this size. The trees were dense, almost black inside. And from that darkness, I could see faint shapes. White cloth, or maybe pale faces. Watching, I walked back quickly, not running, just fast enough that my pulse felt like it was echoing through the ground. Back at the inn, my room door was open. Everything inside was gone. My backpack, my wallet, my phone, even the sheets. Just an empty bed and four walls. I went downstairs. The lobby was deserted. No sign of the innkeeper. Behind the front desk, the ledger was open to a blank page. My name wasn't there. It was like I'd never checked in. I tried calling out. My voice bounced off the walls, unanswered. The silence was suffocating. I walked out into the street. Midday sun, but no one around. Every store closed, every window shuttered. The whole town looked dead. Then, from down the street, I saw movement. Someone standing outside the diner. It was the woman who'd served me coffee. I ran toward her, relief flooding through me. "Hey, what's happening? Where is everyone?" She didn't answer. She just stared at me. Her face looked different, pale. Her lips were grayish, her eyes unfocused. "Ma'am?" I said again. Slowly, she raised her hand and pointed down the road toward the church. I looked. The church door was open. When I turned back to her, she was gone. I stood there for what felt like forever, heart hammering. I should have run. I should have kept walking until I hit a highway or collapsed, but I didn't. I went to the church. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of dirt and old wood. The boards over the windows were gone again, light slanting through the gaps. The floorboards creaked beneath me. The pit I'd seen before was still there, only now it was filled in. Fresh soil, darker than the rest. Something was buried there. I backed away slowly, every instinct screaming at me to leave. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Looking for someone? It was the sheriff, standing in the doorway. He had one hand resting casually on his belt, the other holding his hat. "I want my car," I said. My voice was shaking. "And I want to leave." He nodded, like he'd been expecting me to say that. "You'll get your car," he said softly. "But first, we need to talk about last night. I don't know what you're talking about." He stepped closer. "You do. You watched, didn't you?" I froze. He sighed. "Every few years, someone wanders in. A trucker, a traveler, a kid running from something. They always think they found a quiet town. But daring doesn't take kindly to outsiders seeing what they shouldn't." I felt my throat tighten. "What are you people billing?" He tilted his head, eyes almost pitying. "Keeping order, keeping the town alive." Before I could move, I felt hands on my shoulders. Two men, Hank and another I didn't know, had come in from behind. They were silent. "Please," I said. "I won't say anything. I'll just go." The sheriff looked at me for a long moment. "You can't leave now. You've seen it." Then he nodded to the others. They dragged me toward the pit. I kicked, shouted, tried everything, but they were stronger. Someone shoved a rag in my mouth. My head hit the floor hard enough to see stars. I remember the sound of shovels, dirt scraping, the sheriff's voice, low and calm. This town survives because no one looks too close. You'll be part of that now. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was the ceiling of the church, beams crisscrossed like a cage, and the faint outline of the sheriff's face looking down at me. Then, black. When I woke up, it was daylight again. At first, I thought I was back in my room at the inn. The same faded wallpaper, the faint smell of dust. But when I sat up, I realized the ceiling was wrong. The boards above me were rough, unfinished, the kind you find in basements or cellars. My head throbbed. My mouth was dry, the taste of dirt lingering at the back of my throat. I tried to stand, but my legs buckled. Someone had left a lantern on a crate nearby. I picked it up, shaking. The walls around me weren't plaster. They were earth, packed and uneven, like I was underground. There was no sound, not even footsteps above. Just a faint dripping somewhere, deeper in the dark. I shouted, but my voice came back muffled, swallowed by the dirt. I don't remember how long I stayed there. Maybe hours, maybe longer. The lantern dimmed slowly until I sat in total darkness. My thoughts started slipping. Names, places, how many days I'd been in Daring. All I could think about was air, and how little there was of it. Then, footsteps, faint above me. I shouted again. A voice answered, distant. I couldn't make out the words, but it didn't sound like anyone I'd met before. The next thing I knew, light flooded in from above, real sunlight. A hand reached down. Someone was digging me out. I woke again in a hospital room. A nurse told me I'd been found in an old storm shelter on the outskirts of town. Some hikers had been cutting through the woods and saw the broken boards. When I asked about Daring, she frowned. Daring, she said. There's no town by that name out here. Closest one's 40 miles north. I told her there was a diner, a church, a garage. She exchanged a look with another nurse before saying, carefully, you must have been confused. That stretch of road's been empty for decades. I asked about my car. They said nothing had been found nearby. No wreck, no plates, nothing. When I was discharged 2 days later, a deputy offered to drive me to a bus station. He said the area was known for strange stories. People got lost in the woods sometimes. Old towns that used to be here before the floods got swallowed up and erased. But I know what I saw. Weeks later, I went looking again. I had to. I rented a car, followed every back road I could find, until I reached that same highway stretch where my car had first died. There was no sign for Daring anymore. No diner, no gas station, nothing but wild grass and broken asphalt. But there was something at the edge of the woods. A rusted green road sign lying face down in the weeds. I flipped it over. Welcome to Daring. Population. The number was gone, scraped clean. And below it, in faint red paint, someone had written, never forgotten.